Welcome to my podcast. I'm Vesna, and today I want to share something that came through a recent surrogated collective consciousness balance. Oh, that's a mouthful. This is where I muscle test the collective to see what the imbalance is that's running collectively for all of us, and of course, how to correct it. If you've been feeling a little untethered lately, like there's no grounding and that you haven't got any faith or certainty in the future, then you might like to hang around for this one. What came up in this balance was all about grounding. And the body system that was under stress at this moment in our time this week is the bladder. So stay tuned to what the bladder has to say about dread, about crisis, and about your capacity to meet life with courage and inner certainty. So let's talk about what's in the field right now. I've been muscle testing people for decades, and I often do surrogate muscle testing where I work on behalf of someone that's not in the room. I will do the surrogate testing for people online, and I'll also do surrogate testing for people that are overseas and in other parts of the world. But what I've lately been doing is surrogating the collective, and the collective consciousness is this soup that we are all connected to. And I've been finding out what in the collective is asking to be addressed energetically. And what came up this week was grounding. So the last time I did a collective balance, I got heaps of messages from people saying that they could really relate to exactly what was going on in that balance. It made sense to them. And not only that, they felt like they had been healed in some way through that process as well. So let's have a look to see what's coming up for the collective this week. It might not relate to you in this present time. You might find it in a year's time, but it will still relate to you. This is how the field works. In kinesiology, before we do a balance, we usually like to program in a healing affirmation. So I also muscle tested up the affirmation for this week. My grounding allows me to work at optimum levels. So this is the balancing statement for the whole balance. This is the overarching issue, so to speak. The organ that was under stress and needed correction was the bladder. In traditional Chinese medicine, the bladder is part of the water element and alongside the kidneys. The bladder will relate to themes of territory, like maybe feeling like someone is imposing on your ground. We collectively have had a new budget that's come out, and energetically, some people feel like it is a huge imposition in their life. So collectively, we could be looking at that as well. Just the invasion of our space, of our territory, of our ground in some ways. So the bladder is also out of balance when there is a lot of tension. So if you've got a lot of tension in your household, or if you're holding a lot of tension in your nervous system, the bladder can weaken as a result. It also relates to inner direction. So I see a lot of people coming in feeling like they're out of touch with their purpose and not knowing where they're going to go next, wanting to move house, but not knowing where they can go. With here in Australia, our house prices are becoming unaffordable for the average person. So it's causing a lot of uncertainty and a loss of ground. This is our base, this is our foundation, this is our home. And a lot of people are feeling that they don't have that grounding under their feet, and it doesn't seem to be stable right now. Clinically, I'm seeing a lot of bladder symptoms like people running to the loo constantly, having to wee, cystitis flare-ups, bladder irritation, and even on the other end, fluid retention, edema, that heaviness, feeling kind of waterlogged and heavy, In traditional Chinese medicine, the water element governs our deepest reserves, our will, our survival and instinct, our capacity to move through fear. The emotion that muscle tested up was dread. In particular, dread about the future and a kind of low-level sense of what's coming is not going to be okay, that the ground ahead is not safe, that you can't trust what's next. It can often be felt like a burnout or apathy, depression, disconnection. But underneath it, what really lies there is dread. It's almost like a hopelessness about the future. So if you're feeling this in your world, in your life, it's actually collective. There is something that's moving through the field on this collective level. Here's the correction. The balancing correction that came through was a hologram, which was the stomach to bladder. This is how the stomach meridian relates to the bladder meridian. In traditional Chinese medicine, this connects to what's called the control cycle or the co-cycle, the way that different organ systems regulate and check one another. The stomach in this context is about our ability to take in, process, and integrate what life brings us, to receive nourishment on all levels, not just about food, but experience and change and challenge. When the stomach energy is supporting the bladder, when the earth element is supporting the water element, we can respond to crisis. We have a container for the water element, so we feel held, like this cup with the fluid in it. So when a cup, which is the earth element, is formed in the correct way, it contains water. So that's how the elements can work together. So that happens for us collectively in the field as well, and internally in our body too. When our stomach element is working correctly, it can be a container and hold the water element so it's not just loose and everywhere. So what the balance reveals is that right now, collectively, there is an inability to respond to crisis. It's like we don't have a container for what's untethered in our lives. The old way is collapsing and the new hasn't fully formed yet. So the challenge is to be here with courage, and that's what we're clearing today. So let's correct the dread and the feelings of having no ground. We can do this together. If you can relate to the feeling of dread and the feeling of being untethered and ungrounded, tune into those feelings and see whether they actually sit in your body. You might feel like some heaviness in your back or soreness in your hips. You could feel it anywhere in your body. There's no right place to feel this because it's unique to you. This is simply where you are carrying this particular imbalance. This correction is done by holding the ESR points, which are the emotional stress release points. They're on the frontal eminences of the forehead. For those of you that are listening to this just through audio, you do this by placing your hand on your forehead very gently. And these points are the points that you may instinctively reach for when you're feeling overwhelmed. You know, like when you're sitting there worrying, you might just put your hand on your forehead to have a think. They're very powerful points to bring awareness and energy to the frontal cortex. So it takes us out of this fight or flight, and it takes us into a more problem-solving facet of our thinking. So in kinesiology, these are also the points or the neurovascular points for the bladder as well. Now say this affirmation. I make the commitment to kindly, gently, lovingly, and supportively gain the courage to connect with life with tenacity, adaptability, and strong faith. And as you say that, you can put your hand on your forehead and say that affirmation, and then remember what it feels like to have strong faith. Remember a time that you did have that faith or that certainty in your life, and remember that feeling. The key here is don't look for certainty outside of yourself. Be certain within you. Know that your future self will meet any challenge and also have the space to enjoy the moments that arise in the future as well. Because we don't necessarily have to be constantly concerned about the future. The future's really taken care of. Our future self has got it in the bag, but also it's to remember that it's okay to have those moments of joy in the future as well. Remember that you're building a container for your new life. And as you tune in to what you really want, make sure that you're not tuning in to what you feel you should do. This is a new future that we're all building together collectively. This is our prompt to make sure that we're connecting to our heart and we're allowing ourselves to come into a clean slate. This is a new canvas that we have, and now we get to do it from a place of more certainty about what you love within yourself, because no matter what you focus on, you're going to create anyway. So you might as well create that very thing that is calling you, that very thing that is coming up inside of you. And this is the thing, some people are coming in with an inability to understand what it is that they're in love with. Start with just focusing on little things that you love, like going for a walk. Maybe you just feel like being in the sun today. Something really simple. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to build your whole new life today. That's kind of being sorted. It's unfolding. Trust that your heart's going to bring it forward for you. So if this resonates for you today, make sure that you subscribe to my channel for future balances and talks on metaphysics, energy, and living a life of freedom, where you are truly connected to the source of your own supply.